Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name's Olivia and happy new year. I literally almost forgot, fun story, almost forgot that it was new year. Basically only remembered whenever I had to write in a patient's notes this morning the date, and then I was like, oh yeah. So yeah. Happy new year. I can't believe it is the new year. Anyway, today's video is going to be a little Q&A, catch up, life update situation. And I'm filming in my car because, okay, so basically I already filmed this video like a few days before Christmas, and it was gonna be like a Christmas bake with me and Q&A. And I filmed the whole video, and then basically so my brother gave me a hard drive, so I've been trying to like transfer all my footage on there because my laptop like crashes every time I try to use it because I have so much stuff stored on there. And so I basically tried to put the footage that I filmed of that Q&A onto that hard drive, and I don't know if I don't know what I did, but basically I lost the footage somewhere in the process of that. So that was great. So this video was kind of supposed to go up like on Boxing Day, but that happened, and then I was working all of Christmas, so I didn't have time to refilm it or anything. So anyway, here we are. I'm refilming it today, and I'm in my car because basically my mum is off work this week. My dad is obviously always at home, and we're in lockdown, so there's nowhere they can really go, and I get really awkward filming videos where I'm like talking about like my life when I think my parents might be able to hear me. So yeah, long story short, we're in my car, we're filming, we're gonna have a chat, and that's about it. There's nothing really else I need to say. So I asked for questions on my Instagram again. Like I said, this was supposed to be like a while ago, so these questions were asked a good few weeks ago. I also would like to apologise for my current state of how I look. I was working this morning and I just look a little bit of a mess, but I really couldn't be bothered to go home and like get dressed and look nice and then come out again and sit in my car and film this video. So like I said, I asked for questions on my Instagram, and thank you to everyone who sent in questions. I did actually get loads, and I'm sort of, quite a lot of them people asked like, you know, things about what I was doing for Christmas or whatever, so I'm not like gonna answer those because obviously Christmas is over now. But yeah, so if I don't answer your question, I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm just gonna have a chat basically about some things. So yeah, the first question, I've got my questions written down on some paper here beside me. So the first question made me laugh, and it was just funny to think about. So the first question someone said was, can you tell the story of your first kiss? So basically, yeah, it's not like a great story, like it wasn't like a big deal or anything. Well, it probably was for me at the time, but my first kiss, I was 14. I was in a park with some of my friends, and my boyfriend at the time, he was my first boyfriend. He'd never kissed anyone before, I'd never kissed anyone before. Our friends pretty much forced us to kiss. We kissed. It was terrible. At the time I probably thought it was great, but then neither of us had anything to compare it to. Yeah, it can't have been that bad. I stayed with a guy for 2.5 years after that, so it really can't have been that bad, but yeah, that was it. We'll say no more about it. Then the next question, someone asked, what's the worst thing you've ever done? And then someone else asked, do you have any major regrets? So I'm going to kind of answer these two together. I talked about like regrets and stuff the last time I did a Q&A, but basically I don't think I do have any regrets. And someone, I remember saying that once to one of my friends, and she was like, but like if you could do things differently, you would, wouldn't you? And I kind of like to think that I wouldn't, because I think that although I've made mistakes and I've had some bad times in my life, some really bad times, and I've made some really bad decisions and some really crappy stuff has happened, I don't think that I would be who I am, where I am. I feel like that's the cheesiest thing to say, but it's true. Like, I wouldn't be who I am, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for those like bad decisions and things that I did, mistakes that I made. So I don't actually think I do have any regrets. I'm sure like now, I like to think that now if I was put in the same situations again that I wouldn't make the same decisions, but I think that's just like learning from my mistakes. That doesn't mean that I would change it if I could. Do you know what I mean? I made mistakes whenever I was, you know, 14, 15, 16 that had I not made them then, I probably would have made them when I was 24, 25, 26. Do you know what I mean? And when I was older, if I had made those mistakes, they probably would have had bigger consequences and like repercussions. And I probably would have stood to get hurt more than I did whenever I have made mistakes in my past. I don't know. Obviously I'm going to keep making mistakes, which is fine. But yeah, I don't think I do have any major regrets. The worst thing I've ever done, again, I kind of like to think that I'm not that bad a person. I don't think I've ever done anything like that awful. Probably the worst thing I've done, I don't know, the worst thing I've done to anyone else, I would say, to be honest, was probably when I was in that relationship I mentioned before. I think I prioritised that relationship far too much, and that probably was something then I think I neglected my friendships more. So I would say that was a bad thing I did. Didn't really know I was doing it at the time, but yeah, that was a bad thing I did. That's probably the worst thing I've done in my opinion. Any of my friends know of anything I've done that's worse, send me a message. Oh, and then I got so many questions about uni. So if you don't know, so I'm actually filming this video on the 1st of January. And if you don't know, I start uni on the 15th of February and I'm going to study adult nursing at Queen's in Belfast. So I actually got loads of questions about uni, like literally half of these questions I feel like are about uni. So the first one said, are you excited for uni? This is a complex question, and whenever the first time I filmed this Q&A, I really discussed this at length. So I'm not going to do that this time because I don't think it needs such a lengthy answer, but trying to keep a long story very short, I am a bit of a rambler, I feel like we all know that. But basically, yes, I'm really excited for uni, and I think the closer I get to it, the more excited I am. But it has felt definitely, and feels very strange because, again, I don't know if I've ever like mentioned this like on my channel, so probably only like my close friends know this, but I always planned, not always, but probably from when I was in lower sixth, I planned to take a gap year. So I planned to have a year off of like school and education and stuff between finishing A-levels and starting university. But then because I got my offer for, there's 2 intakes of nursing, there's a September intake and a February intake. So instead of going in September 2020, I'm going obviously February 2021. Which kind of still gave me a little like mini gap year, so it gave me the 6 months. But because it's, I don't know, I just think if I'd had a whole year like off, I would have been able to plan more and kind of think of more things to do or try, and I don't know, I don't know, but I just, in my head, I think a year would have been enough. Like a year in my head is long enough that I would have taken it seriously and made a plan for it, whereas 6 months I didn't feel like was long enough to ever do anything. So I feel like my friends all went to uni, apart from like 1 or 2. Most of my friends have all gone to uni in September, and I feel like I've just been sort of sitting here like waiting for everyone to like have time for me, or I don't know, it's just, I really don't know how to explain my words, but basically I just feel like I've been sitting like raring to go for like 6 months, and I've not had, because I don't even know, because I feel like through the whole summer I was working full time, and then as soon as it got to the end of September I wasn't full time anymore, and I don't know if it would have been better if I was, but it just, I felt like I was just sitting with a pause button on, and I really wanted to press play but I couldn't because, you know, someone had told me I couldn't yet. And do you know what I mean? It all felt very strange. So anyway, I think that's kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't really know how else to explain it. I basically have just felt like I just want to start uni, and that's how I either want to start or I want to have a reasonable, like substantial amount of time that I know I'm not going to start, whereas 6 months to me never felt substantial enough. It's not even 6 months. How long is that? September, October, November, December, 5 months. Okay, so 5 months from results day, when I found out like when I was gonna be starting, and it wasn't even results day, it was like a week later that I actually found out. And then like when I'm actually starting, so it's like 5 months. It just to me doesn't feel like long enough to like commit to any other thing, so I just sort of have been sitting around waiting to start uni is what it feels like. So in answer to the question, I said I was going to answer that shortly and I did not, but in answer to the question, yes, I'm really excited to start uni because I just feel like I've been waiting for it for so long, and like I just feel like I've been sitting around waiting. So yes, I'm very excited to start. I am very nervous, and the nerves are kind of calming down a little bit the closer I get to it, because I think it's just the thought of it is worse than actually going. But just, I think it doesn't need to be said, this year has obviously been bizarre in so many ways, but especially for my degree, it doesn't make sense how they can justify that you can teach nursing, which is like a 100% like hands-on learning degree. I do not understand how it can be taught to the same level, and for us to be expected to come out the other side of the 3 years as the same standard of nurses as people who've had like a normal learning experience. I just don't understand that. I feel like once I start, like I say, it's all about this. Like I've just been sitting around waiting and thinking about all the worst case scenarios, which is what I do, it's who I am. So again, like I feel like once I start, it'll be fine, because once I start, I'll actually know what I'm doing, I'll know where I'm at, I'll have a timetable, I'll be able to get into a routine with the whole online school thing. And yeah, I don't know how much sense that made, but and someone asked why I decided to study nursing. So I feel like this is a short answer. I've always wanted to be a nurse, literally always. I had about a year where I decided I wanted to be a doctor, but that was basically because I was at a school that told me if I wanted to do something in healthcare, I should be a doctor. There was no sort of, I remember mentioning to a careers advisor that I wanted to be a nurse, and she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, no, I think you could be a doctor or you could be something else. It was like nursing almost wasn't good enough. Like it was like you had to be a doctor, you had to be getting the A stars and going to study medicine, or you should be thinking about something else entirely. For as long as I can remember anyway, this is what I've wanted to do. So yeah, that's why I chose it. And someone else asked why I chose the university that I chose. Basically, I didn't really want to go to a university in Northern Ireland. I wanted to go to Edinburgh. That's my dream. And again, for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to go to Edinburgh for university. But like I said, if you are from Northern Ireland and you go to study a nursing degree in Northern Ireland, you get your academic fees paid for, which is, like I said, $9,500 a year. That makes a massive difference. So basically for ages I thought, like, could I make it work? Could I still go to uni like away and whatever? But between like after loads of chats with my parents and stuff like that, I just think it makes more sense for me to stay at home, train here, not have to pay that money, not have to come out of uni with like crippling amounts of student debt. And then like as soon as I finish uni, I can go to Scotland if I want. Do you know what I mean? Like I can go and live there and work as a nurse. I can go to wherever I want once I'm qualified. So that is why I chose the university I chose. And someone else also had asked what I'm doing for like living next year, or like when I start uni. So I'm staying at home, like my family house, like where I live now. I'm going to live there for the first few months. So I start uni in February and I'm going to live there until the end of August. And then hopefully move out end of August, beginning of September into a house with some of my friends. So that's kind of my plan, because again, financially, I think it makes more sense for me to stay at home for a few months, especially if I'm online. It doesn't make sense for me to move, you know, into a whole new house to be close to the university when I'm not even going to be in university. So stay at home for a few months, kind of get my bearings with the classes and everything, hopefully make some friends, and then I'll have a better idea, and like I'll be more settled to move out, if that makes sense. And I'll also be in a better place financially because I'm planning still to work while I'm at uni, so I'll still be working, which would be something that would be made more difficult if I was living at uni, because where my uni is quite far from where I work. So I'll be able to work more than if I stay at home than if I go to uni, and also I'll obviously not be paying rent and utilities and all that stuff, so I'll still be at home. I hope that makes sense. And then someone asked, do you have any preference of specialty when you finish your degree? So like, do I have a preference of what area of nursing I'm going to work in, basically, I think is what that question means. So basically, again, like my close friends probably know this, because this was a whole consideration of what degree I was going to do, because I'm doing an adult nursing degree, I could have done a children's nursing degree, could have done a midwifery degree. Basically, the two areas of nursing that I really, really am passionate about and would love to work in are A&E, first of all, but I do know that that's something I probably wouldn't want to do long term. And then the other one is neonates. So if you don't know what neonates is, it's basically babies. And whenever I did a placement last summer in Dominican Republic for a couple of weeks, and I spent some time in neonatal ICU there, and I just found it so interesting, and I don't think I want to be a midwife. I just don't, I think like I want kind of more options than that, but I would love to work in neonatal care, like special care baby unit, that kind of thing. But basically, if you want to work with babies, if you want to work in neonates, you can do a children's nursing degree or you can do an adult nursing degree, but whichever of the two you do, you still have to go on and do like this 18-month neonatal nursing course. So it doesn't actually, so I was going to be doing children's nursing because I want to work in neonates at some point anyway. But then I realised it doesn't actually help me to get into like special baby care. Like if I do children's nursing, it's just as easy to get there if I do adult nursing, and I feel like an adult nursing degree give me more options. Like I said, I'd love to work in A&E, but like when I qualify, say I get a job in A&E, I might only want to work there for 4 or 5 years because it's a very like high stress, intense environment, which is great if that's you, but I think probably long term that would have quite an effect on me. So I could work there for a few years, but then I can go and I can work in urology, and then I can go and I can work in dermatology, and I can work in, you know, I can work in neonates if I want to. I can always do a conversion course to midwifery if that's what I decide. I just feel like I have so many options with the adult nursing degree. I also feel like I use loads of words there that probably don't make sense if you're not interested in like medicine, so sorry. But yeah, basically I don't actually know if that answers the question, but my two areas of interest currently are neonatal care, so babies, and A&E are my two. But that's not to say that those are the two it's not like I want to work in one area for my whole life, because I don't. So that's my current sort of thing. I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure did that answer the question, but there we go, that's the answer anyway. And what was the next one? Oh yes, why did you decide to move schools for sixth form, and do you think it was a good decision? So okay, so again, I think I might have touched on this in my last Q&A video, so I'll try and keep this answer brief. But again, if you didn't know, I basically went to one school for my first 5 years of like secondary education, and then I moved schools for my 2 A-level years for sixth form, which I think in England and stuff is like kind of common practice. Like most people move schools for sixth form, but in Northern Ireland it's generally not. I mean, some people do it, but like most people, if your school has a sixth form, you just stay at it. So yeah, I moved schools. Basically the reason that I moved at the time mainly was because the school that I was at didn't want to let me do the A-levels that I had chosen. So at the time I wanted to do biology, chemistry, maths and English, and they didn't want me to do biology or chemistry. I ended up starting those 4 A-levels and then switching my chemistry to nutrition and food science, which was a really, really good decision. But yeah, at the time, so they still, even if I'd started trying to do biology, maths, English and nutrition and food science, they still wouldn't have let me do them because they didn't want me to do any science subjects. So that's basically why I moved. I moved then to the school that let me do whatever I wanted, which was great. Again, like I say, at the time that's why I moved, but I was also very, very, very unhappy at the school I was at. I had basically one really good friend who I'm still really, really good friends with, and I don't know what I would have done without her, but I'd just come out of that relationship that I mentioned, and I didn't really have that many friends, or quite a few people who I felt like were quite like negative influences on my life, and it just like the teaching, like the way the teaching was, in my opinion, was very like small-minded and just wasn't, I'm sure it suited some people, but it definitely didn't suit me. I felt like quite put down, especially like I feel like that's a good example, you know, they wouldn't let me do, you know, the subjects I wanted and whatever. So actually it's not just that they wouldn't let me do them, they said if you do these A-levels you will fail. Those were the words used. And I got an A in that A-level in the end, so it's very interesting. But yeah, anyway, I'm not salty about it because I'm so glad that that happened, because if they hadn't have made me move, then they weren't making me move. I mean, obviously they didn't want me to move, they wanted me to stay, but the things they were saying made me move. If they hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have moved, and I still would probably have been in that unhappy like environment for the next couple of years. So yeah, basically that was that. I left and it was the best decision I've ever made, without a doubt. I moved to a school that was supportive of me, of my decisions, of like my skill set, and they made me feel like I actually was good at things rather than never being good enough at stuff. They made me feel like I had something to offer the school rather than feeling like I was a burden to the school. They really made me feel valued, which was something I don't think I'd ever felt before, which was really great. And that obviously didn't just come from like the school and the teachers, that came massively from like my peer group, and I honestly like don't think I could have been put with like a better group of people. Like, I mean, I probably could have, but like it felt like such, compared to the group of, you know, peers that I'd been in before, it just was such a like accepting like year group of people, and I just felt like I could kind of do what I wanted and be who I wanted to be. And like, yeah, people were gonna judge me, because people are always gonna judge you, but nowhere near to the same extent that they would have done at like my previous school. So yeah, again, I said I was going to give a short answer and I definitely did not, but that is, I think that, so yeah, definitely the best decision I ever made, without a doubt. And then the next two questions, I'll put them together. So the first one was, would you ever consider therapy? And the second one was, how is your mental health? So thank you so much to the person who asked how my mental health is. I feel like that's so kind to ask. So would I ever consider therapy? I've actually been to therapy before. For those of you who don't know, I have anxiety and depression, and like I have been to various doctors and various health professionals about that. I went to a therapist privately, which again I know is something I'm massively fortunate and privileged to be able to do. But yeah, I knew how long, I'd been given a rough estimate of how long it was going to be before I got any NHS provided like therapy or treatment. So I went privately and I saw a therapist I probably saw her for about a year, and it was fine. I mean, I'm sure in many ways it was helpful. I'm sure it made me deal with things that I didn't want to deal with, but I very much was at that time not in a place to actually process how I was feeling. If you yourself have suffered with mental illness, or if you know someone who has, like if you're close to someone who has, you'll know that there's very much like phases of it, and the biggest phase, I would say, the biggest phase is recovery, but other than recovery, the biggest phase I would say is like you have this period of time where you feel so sick and you feel so like consumed by your feelings that you are physically unable to process them. And it's not because you don't want to get better, but there's something in your head that tells you can't get better. And that is a really, really valid phase. If you are someone who is suffering with mental health, you kind of have to let yourself feel that phase. And as long as it's not to a point where like it is like really, threatening your life, like that is a phase that I do think really needs to be acknowledged. Because like for me, I was sort of trying to push like at this therapy, and like the people that loved me were really trying to like push for this therapy to make me better, but it couldn't, because there was a block somewhere in my brain that there were things I just couldn't deal with. For whatever reason, some of those reasons I still don't understand, but yeah, at the time that was something I just couldn't do. So yes, I'm sure in many ways therapy was great for me. I think there are things that made me deal with that I wouldn't have dealt with otherwise, but there were also many, many things that it tried to deal with that I didn't want it to deal with. And basically the therapist that I was seeing didn't like that. That really annoyed her. I think she felt a bit like, I don't want to like psychoanalyze my therapist, but I think she just felt a bit like I was maybe just didn't care, and like I didn't want to get better, and I wasn't trying hard enough, and things like that. So basically I just didn't really click with her at that time in my life. I don't think I was necessarily ready for therapy. I definitely wasn't ready for her as a therapist, which again, I would again say this to anyone who is considering therapy, which by the way I feel like everyone can benefit from, even if you don't have like a diagnosed mental illness. It's a really great way of processing feelings. But yeah, if you are considering therapy, do not feel guilty for not clicking with the first therapist you try, or the second, or the third. If you think about all the people that you've met in your life and how many of those people you've got on with and how many you haven't, how can you expect yourself to just instantly click with a person just because they have the title therapist? Like, it's so unreasonable. So for ages I kind of pushed as well. Like I didn't really get on with her that well, but I kind of thought like, well, I should be getting on with her, why am I not? But like that's fine that I didn't, do you know what I mean? So anyway, again, long answer. I said it wasn't going to be long, but yes. So that, I don't know if that answers the questions. Have I ever considered therapy? I have been to therapy, so yes, I've considered it. It's again like, it's not something I'm ruling out for like the future. If you've been through the mental health system, you know how like I don't even know what the word is, how bizarre and draining it is. But yeah, so basically I'm currently still on many waiting lists, but I'm in actually a really good place. Then to answer the second question, I'm actually doing really well in myself. I think the whole project reset thing has been really good for me. I don't know if it comes across in the videos, but I'm not just doing it as like something that I do every now and then for a YouTube video. It's something that I pursue actively daily in my life, and every now and then I happen to make videos about it. It is really something that like I'm focusing on myself. I'm focusing on my personal development. The past like 6 weeks or so has been quite difficult. I'm not gonna go into any detail, but we've got a bit of a like family situation going on at the moment, which is hard, but it's fine. And yeah, I think that's actually been an interesting period for me, because I've been able to like compare it to previous situations I've been in and how I'm dealing with this situation compared to how I would have dealt with it previously, which has been like a marker for me of how well I've done, how much I've grown in the past few years. So yeah, I'm doing well. Like I said, I'm excited to start uni, like I said, because I think mentally it'll give me a focus, which is something that I struggle without a focus, and work for me I think doesn't feel like a big enough focus, which probably doesn't make sense to some people, but it does to me. So but yeah, I again don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, my mental health is good. Thank you so much for asking. And yes, I also like my DMs on Instagram or whatever are always open for any of you who have any questions regarding like therapy, mental health, like my experiences, how you're feeling. If you just need someone to talk to, like please don't hesitate if you do have questions or if you just want to chat, because I know what it's like to feel like you have no one to talk to, and that's not necessarily because people aren't there for you, because maybe all your friends say to you every day, how are you, you know, let's catch up, whatever, but sometimes all you kind of want is like someone who isn't invested in the situation. So yeah, I'm always here if you guys need a chat. Yeah, I feel like this got really deep and emotional and it didn't need to, but there we are, there's the answer. Moving on. I only have 2 questions left. Well, there's a few more, but I'm only gonna answer 2 more. So and the first one is, what was your high and your low of 2020? So I loved this question so much because I've been really trying to sort of process 2020 over the last few days, which I'll be honest, I found very difficult to do. I've been trying to process it and make sense of it and reflect on it, but I've been finding that really difficult. And if that's how you feel as well, that is totally fine. You don't have to reflect on a year just because it's like December 31st. I've never been someone who celebrates New Year's very much, so I don't feel like to me it's just sort of another day, but I do like the sort of new beginnings type kind of vibe of it. So I do like using opportunities of like new beginnings or like the start of a new week, month, year, whatever. I like using that as a time to reflect, but I feel like this year is a very overwhelming year to reflect on. So yeah, I don't really know where that came from, but anyway, yeah, I really like this question is basically what I was trying to say. And I really don't have a good answer, which is disappointing. But I think I would probably say like my high and my low have probably, neither of them have been like one day, one event, one situation. But my high I think would be probably my job. I think mainly because I am really proud of myself for like how much I've grown because of my job, how much I've had to mature, you know, from like someone who was just kind of going to school every day, being told what to do every day, kind of not really having that much control over my own life, and just kind of living it from day to day, not really with much of a kind of idea of like anyone else, if that kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but I just feel like, you know, I literally went from that to like a month or 6 weeks of having literally nothing to do, no responsibilities, no plans, nothing. And then straight away it was like, okay, be a full adult, be in charge of, you know, people's lives, like here's this responsibility and it's massive. And I think for the most part I have dealt quite well with that, which is something I'm really proud of myself for. And I know in terms of like going on to do nursing, this job has been really, really good experience. So yeah, probably my job, I think I've just really had to step up and that's been really difficult at sometimes, but I'm really proud of myself for like how much progress I've made. I think my job has helped me realise some of my strengths as well, which is something I struggle with, so that also is something I'm really proud of myself for. So yeah, probably my job as a whole has been my high of 2020, and then again my low has probably been like separation from people that I love. I'm not going to dwell on this because I'll probably cry. But again, this isn't like one day or one situation, but I am someone who very much does not enjoy being on their own. I like being with people, even if I'm all that I'm doing with them is like we're in the same room and we're not talking to each other, we're watching a movie, or like we're just kind of both reading but we're in the same room. I just like being with people. It's who I am. I've always been like that. I'm not sure that that'll ever change, but yeah, I think so. That's something I've really struggled with mentally this year. That's something I've struggled with massively, and I think for such a long time I didn't see my grandma, who is one of my best friends. I love her so much, and I didn't see her for such a long time. That was really hard. There are still so many people that I haven't seen that I love and I miss, and obviously still nothing has changed in that, you know, the only people I've hugged since the day I left school in March are my parents and my grandma. That's the end of the list. And again, like I'm a very physical person. Physical touch is like my second love language or something, so like I love people, so I hug them. It's kind of just what I do, so that's been really weird. Yeah, that probably would be my low, is just like that kind of separation, but at the same time I know that it'll just be all that much better when I do get to see those people and hug them and literally never stop hugging them. Yeah. That's probably, again, sorry if that's like a bad answer to the question, because it wasn't like one day that like was the worst day ever, but just kind of experiences, you know. And then the last question is, what are you looking forward to about 2021? So I feel like the obvious thing is starting uni. I'm just so excited to actually have something to focus on, something to direct my energy to. Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be great. I know it'll obviously be hard and like it'll be really strange, but I'm really excited for uni, and I'm really excited for placements, to be like in a hospital, like doing things. I'm very excited about that. And other than that, I'm really looking forward to a day when I can see my friends the way I would have done, like just normal, seemingly mundane things where like they could just come to my house and we can just sit on my bed and like watch a movie on my laptop, or you know, they can come to my house and stay over, or you know, we can go in a car somewhere together. Like things like this are just things that I miss so much. Like, and I think it's been hard because I think, well, obviously a lot of people haven't stuck to rules, so it's been kind of hard. I sort of feel like have been sort of sitting on the sidelines while other people do things, because like some people have just been going ahead with things, which is fine for them, but like I think because of my job and everything, I just have to be so careful with COVID. So yeah, I think just to be able to do those like sort of mundane things with other people, even just my family, like we have a really close family, like on my mum's side, like my cousins and aunts and uncles and everything, just for us all to be in one room round one dinner table and not have to worry about anything. I would just love a day like that. So that is something I'm looking forward to about 2021, although I am also aware that that's not a guaranteed thing that might happen in 2021, so I'm hoping that it will be something that'll happen, and for that reason it's something I'm choosing to look forward to. If it doesn't happen this year and I have to wait till next year, then that's that, but yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. So yeah guys, I know this was probably such a big rambly video and I'm not sure how much sense it made, but that's just kind of me. That's who I am. I'm a very rambly person and I like just having these little chats with you guys. And thank you again so much to everyone who asked questions. I love doing these videos. They're like one of my favourites to film, because I just love having a chat, but I know they can be really long and rambly, so I don't do them very often. But yeah, I really hope you guys are doing well, and if you're not, that's okay too. Like I said, literally my DMs are always open, and I really hope that this year treats you well, whatever it holds, and we just don't know what it holds. And I don't know about you guys, but that's something I struggle with, like not knowing. That's like one of my biggest struggles in just life. So this whole thing has been difficult for me, and I'm sure so many other people have the same feeling. So we're not alone, we're in this together. And I don't mean that in the way that the government mean it, I mean it in like an actual we're all in this together way. That's that. I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. Really hope that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope it's a good one, and I will see you guys next time. Love you. Bye.